In the bitter aftermath of the 1962 Sino-Indian War, 5 heavily wounded soldiers reached an Indian base camp. They were the only known survivors of Charlie Company, a 120-man unit that had been stationed at the high-altitude pass of Rezang. These men carried a report that seemed mathematically impossible. They claimed their isolated company had not only held their ground against thousands of Chinese troops, but had killed over 1,300 enemy soldiers before their positions were finally overrun. Military high command met this story with immediate skepticism. Without witnesses or aerial surveillance, officials accused the survivors of fabricating a heroic tale to hide a retreat. The men were threatened with a court-martial for abandoning their posts. For 3 months, the official record of the battle remained one of suspected cowardice. Clearing the names of the survivors and their 114 fallen comrades would require physical proof that only the mountain itself could provide. In February 1963, a Ladakhi shepherd wandered into the treacherous Rezang Pass, 17,000 feet above sea level. Through the thin, freezing air, he spotted several frozen silhouettes that appeared to be clutching weapons. Following the shepherd's report, a search party led by Brigadier T.N. Reyna and representatives from the Red Cross entered the pass. The search area was a jagged, frozen no-man's land, where the temperature rarely rose above freezing. What they found was a battlefield perfectly preserved in ice. The forensics of the site would not only exonerate the survivors, but would force the military to reconstruct the entire history of the Chushul campaign. Rezang was the final choke point protecting the Chushul airstrip, but the company was entirely isolated. A massive mountain ridge sat between Indian artillery bases and the pass, physically blocking all supporting fire. Charlie Company would fight without a single artillery shell. The 120 soldiers occupied shallow stone trenches in -30-degree weather, many lacking standard winter gear. They were facing an approaching force of over 3,000 Chinese troops. While the Chinese military was equipped with modern automatic weapons, the Indian soldiers carried World War I-era .303 manual bolt-action rifles. Every shot required the soldier to manually cycle the action before firing again. Geography and technology had turned Rezang into a trap. With no path for retreat and no hope for rescue, the company prepared for a stand that was effectively suicidal. The search party's first discovery at the Indian mortar pits revealed a staggering statistic. 993 out of the 1,000 issued mortar shells had been fired. This evidence allowed the search party to reconstruct the 4 a.m. assault. Despite the limitations of their manual rifles, the company held fire until the Chinese infantry was in the open, using their few mortars to break the momentum of the initial human waves. Moving deeper into the ruins, the searchers found nursing assistant Dharampal Dahiya. He was found frozen solid with a morphine syringe in his hand, kneeling beside a soldier in a bunker leveled by high explosives. This site marked the sunrise attack. Realizing that small arms wouldn't clear the pass, the Chinese military deployed heavy weapons, specifically 120mm mortars and recoilless rifles, to systematically dismantle the Indian stone fortifications. Forensics showed that as fortifications collapsed, the Indian forces didn't break. They stayed in crumbling trenches, firing until their ammunition was entirely spent. Higher up the slope, the search party found the frozen bodies of Indian and Chinese soldiers locked together in physical combat. When the rifles ran dry, the Ahir soldiers, many of whom were traditional wrestlers from the Haryana plains, met the Chinese advance with bayonets and bare hands. The physical evidence showed they had fought hand-to-hand to delay the final seizure of the ridge. Near a large boulder, the searchers found the body of Major Shaitan Singh. A light machine gun was tied to his leg with rope. The commander was hit by heavy fire that shattered his arms. To keep the weapon operational, he tied the firing mechanism to his leg. Before dying, he ordered his men to leave him behind and evade capture so the story of the battle would survive. The frozen evidence on the mountain matched the survivors' story beat for beat. Their impossible claim of a 10-to-1 kill ratio was no longer a story. It was a documented forensic reality. The search party noted one final detail. Not a single Indian soldier had been shot in the back. Every man had died in his fighting position, facing the enemy. This vindication led to the posthumous awarding of the Paramveer Chakra to Major Shaitan Singh, the highest honor in the Indian military. The staggering toll became clear. 114 Indian soldiers had been lost, but they killed or wounded roughly 1,300 Chinese troops. This effectively neutralized the offensive. The Chinese military ceased their advance on Chushul and declared a ceasefire 3 days later. Rezang law stands as a testament to the fact that tactical outcomes aren't always determined by numbers or technology. For 16 hours, 120 men used a sense of duty to hold a mountain pass against an entire offensive, and in doing so, they saved the region.